Today I'm going to share with you 2 fun ways to create some embossed resist backgrounds, but they're going to be rainbows. Hello and welcome back. It's time for another Take 2 with Therese at Altenew, and I have a really awesome background stamp to share with you today. This is called Climbing Leaves, and what's really unique about it, it has a coordinating die. We're also going to be using that today. But what we are doing is actually creating an embossed resist background twice. And I thought I'd sort of change it up and use 2 different mediums. So to start with, I am actually going to be stamping and heat embossing this Climbing Leaves image twice. Once on some Neenah 80-pound cardstock. So it is a large stamp. So I am actually using my Misty tool to make sure that I get a really good impression. And I also use my Chucky tool there to add a little bit of extra pressure with the embossing ink. Now this is really hard to see because it's white on white, but I assure you the image is there. I am using the pure white embossing powder and I'm going to hit it with my heat tool. Now when I'm heat embossing a large area like this, it is really important to take your time, and I kind of work in sections, and that way I don't really miss anything. One thing to be aware that is with embossing, heat embossing, is to keep moving your tool. So as soon as you start to see the embossing powder melt, it's time to move to the next area. So this is the first background. This is the Neenah. The other one I did was on watercolor cardstock, and that's a little hint there. Oh, you will see what I'm going to be doing with that one very shortly. But for this particular background, I thought I'd just do some rainbow ink blending. Now the great thing about rainbow ink blending is you only really need 3 colors, because if you choose the right 3 colors, they're going to blend and create other colors in between them. So basically a red, a yellow and a blue. But I didn't want that today. No, of course not. I wanted to make it a little bit harder. I wanted it to be a little bit more in the pastel shades. So I did actually choose some lighter colors, but they're going to work in exactly the same way. So basically I'm using my ink blending tool from Altenew. This is the large one, and this creates a background really quickly, and it blends so beautifully over the white embossed area. And this is what creates that emboss resist look. So basically the ink is showing in between the embossed areas. And if you do happen to have ink sort of sitting on top of the embossing, you can simply clean that up by wiping it away with a paper towel after. You may have also noticed that to get my rainbow blend, what I'm actually doing is coming back in with the colors. So I'm putting my 3 colors down, but then I'm actually coming back in with the previous color and reblending over top, and that just helps give me those 2 extra colors in between. So the pink and the yellow are making a orange color, and blending the blue and the yellow makes kind of a green color. So it gives me those extra couple of colors in my rainbow. How pretty is that? Now the second version, now I've also heat embossed exactly the same as I did before, but this is on some of the Watercolor Paper Pad cardstock from Altenew, which is quite a smooth, bright white cardstock, and it does tolerate water. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a emboss resist, but this time I'm doing it with watercolors. So the heat embossing of the Climbing Leaves pattern is going to resist the paint. And I want to do the same sort of pastel-y colors again. So I've got the artist watercolors, and I've actually mixed them with some of the white to make them a little bit more pastel-y. And I know that they're going to dry that little bit lighter, so they're probably a bit brighter than I thought I would have needed in anticipation of that. I actually came in and laid down some clean water first on the panel before picking up my colors. And I will list the colors that I've used for the out of the artist palette at the blog, but don't worry, it doesn't matter. You can actually do this with whatever you've got. If you don't have watercolor paints, you can actually do this same technique using the dye inks. So you could actually smoosh the inks onto a palette or a plate or some sort of non-porous surface, spritz it with a bit of water, and then pick it up with your brush. You may notice I didn't get a real strong blend here between my colors. There is a hint of the green. So I had to kind of work it a little bit to get that, but it was my fault. I'm going for pastels, so I did keep it light. And it was the same with between the yellow and the pink. The orange is quite subtle, but it's definitely there. Now, I did have to set this panel aside to dry. It didn't take very long at all, although I did add a bit of water. You could hit it with the heat tool, but then you don't want to accidentally remelt the embossing powder. It just makes it go dull. So as long as you don't put the heat tool too close to it or leave it there for too long, it should be fine. So I'm back to the ink blended panel now, and I'm going to be using the coordinating die, and I just love that it cuts out all these little holes in between the climbing leaves, so you can actually get a lot of dimension, add a different color cardstock beneath to get a different effect. But today I'm just going to put white behind it because I've got the rainbow busy colors happening on the front. So I'm going to create my card base now, and I've got a 110-pound Neenah cardstock, and I've got the Altenew mini scoreboard here, and I love this scoring tool. It's actually got like a metal ball stylus on the front, so you can get a nice crisp line, and then I can just come in with my Teflon bone folder and put a nice crisp edge on the card. Now I've got a classic die here. I just love this one. It's the Mega Hello die. I've cut it out 4 times just in some scrap cardstock, except for the top one. I have cut that one out of some Neenah, I think it was the 110-pound, and I'm just layering up all these pieces to get a dimensional hello. I do like to use liquid glue that's fairly fast drying here, so that I've got a little bit of time to actually squidge the edges together, because there are some intricate portions to this die. And the sub-sentiment that I'm using today is from the Bold Sentiment set, and I always tend to stamp these solid sentiments out in black ink, but for this particular card I thought it'd be fun to do it in the cotton candy, so matching the pink ink that I'd initially blended the panel with. And I did prep that stamp with the conditioning eraser there, as it was, I hadn't used it before, and it's a solid stamp, and I wanted to make it nice and crisply stamped with my Misty. Now I've used a liquid adhesive here to attach my Mega Hello die cut to the front of the card because of the embossing. A liquid glue is going to help hold that on a lot stronger. And then I can just flip the panel over and cut away the edges of the hello so it does fit perfectly on the card front, and I can pop my sentiment up on the front. I do like how that rainbow effect, the pastel colours look on that card, and I think it'll make anybody smile. For the second card I decided to add Flamingo, as you do. So I quickly coloured it with some of the artist markers, and this actually has a coordinating die. It's called the Poised Flamingo, and I did some really simple colouring here. I think it's a really cute little image, and I'm glad that it has a coordinating die. I didn't feel like cutting away all those extra little intricate legs and things. I think we're a bit spoilt now. We've got dies. It's fussy cutting. I used to fussy cut everything, and now I love to die cut everything. So I actually did die cut that about 3 times and layer it up as well. And I also layered up 3 die cut frames, and this is from the New Day card set, but it is actually sold separately. And I just think this intricate die cut frame is gorgeous. And I cut down my panel once it was dry and added that to my card front. Now, because it was a watercolor panel, I thought it was going to be wiser to use a nice strong tape, and this ultra sticky tape from Altenew is just that. So I don't tend to use liquid glues when I adhere my panels to the card front. I find that I can get a bit warped. I don't know, I just think I get a bit heavy-handed with it. So the dry double-sided adhesive works really well for me. And like I did before, I just added some liquid glue to the frame that was going to be adhering directly to the embossing. And I did use the Obsidian ink to stamp out this sentiment from the Bold Sentiments set. I couldn't do a coloured one twice. I had to go back to classic. And I did pop that up with the Flamingo. So I hope you're inspired today to maybe try a little bit of Rainbow Emboss Resist. If you do, don't hesitate to share it with us. I'd love to see what you create. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Till next time, bye.
Hello crafters, Jen here. For more tips, techniques, tutorials, and to discover which paper crafting products are right for you, subscribe to Altenew's YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thanks for watching.